If I might just go there for a sec, in respect to the platforms are there already. Imagine us actually having little viral things going on TikTok, or viral things going on Facebook, or viral things going on Insta. So if we could actually have sort of a little dance where people go dot 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 climate blah, and they have their comments, and effectively we're creating this viral, um, like we go to we go to the platforms where people are.
So I think there's a lot of that stuff happening already. Is my
Mm,
answer to that.
yeah.
I mean, you know, these all of the social media platforms are absolutely littered by certainly young people talking about the mess that we're
Yeah.
in all
So
sorts of ways.
how do we differentiate ourselves? That's one of the questions I wanted to pose. How do we,
Mm.
because we are new in the game, obviously, so how are we different? What do we bring to the table that is different?
And what impact do we want to have? What is the effect of what we do? What is the desired effect of what we want to do, and why is that
Hmm.
important to the world?
Exactly. If it's already out there, why are we doing it anyway? What's the reason for us doing it? The reason for us doing it, in my view, is initially was there are a whole heap of people that want to get involved but don't know how. So that's where the CEO, like, how do we actually focus on the CEOs? How do we focus on getting the people who want to make change? How do we help them make the change? So what we've got is in respect of doing that, we've got the relevant forums in where they can get engaged with think tanks and whatever. Once we do that and we have the relevant think tanks, we can then share those findings with the rest of the world in an engaged way.
So where David and I started with this was I noticed on the group in the beginning that there was a great interest in children and activating or creating conversation amongst children and activating and mobilizing kids. But we then moved to this intergenerational conversation, which I think there's some power in that. And I love what Katz is saying. I love that, and there, so that is one format. So if we say the intergenerational conversation is really important, because maybe as an older generation, we maybe now we're starting to feel the urgency, but we, as Katz highlighted, the power of that platform was to show the complete polarization of paradigm around climates, and that kids are probably more informed and more
And
motivated than
in,
an
in
older
respect of
generation.
in respect of intergenerational, is it kids or are we actually focused on 20 to 30-year-olds? Because or 18 to 30-year-olds? Is it like how do we get to the universities? How do we get the people who are active in climate with the universities, and how can we get them to intersect with us alta kakas?
I think that's a good question. So, what do we mean by intergenerational, and why are we, seeking that particular definition? So I think there's a job with younger kids that are articulate and have something to say, and we want to hear what that is about. But then, as you mentioned, there's a young group that is becoming effective in the space. So, be they students, be they young professionals who are taking up new jobs that are, becoming available in the sustainability or climate or, polycrisis space, ESG space, so but there must be a specific objective there, because they are kind of mobilizers in corporate space, whereas the kids are opening up a bigger conversation with leadership. So I think if we
With
can
the
get clear about that.
So when you
with the
say that
universe
the
with
kids are opening up a conversation, so this is the way I see it, and I've got no idea because this is not my 100% world. There's a lot of young people and a lot of older people who are taking to the streets and making a massive noise about how unfair and how crazy the situation we're in are. I'm not sure whether there's a real ask behind that. When I'm thinking about Extinction Rebellion, there's a lot of noise, which is great, and a lot of energy, but I don't know whether it's very focused, and I don't know whether that's actually going to make a difference. So I think there's also a lot of talk in the corporate space, which is, let's be honest, the most influential space that there is in the world at the moment, I think. There's a lot of talk there as well, and not very much action. So we've got two polarized, we're angry, we hate corporates. We want to make a difference, kinda, but we don't know how. And there's a lot of talk, and there's a lot of content, there's a lot of sharing, or there's a lot of shouting. I'm not sure how much listening or connection there is, and I don't know.
And so maybe that's what we bring to the table, Shireen. Maybe that's what we bring to the table, Kat. We bring the connection between the two and give them focus to say, okay, what are the actions that we can actually do? How can we, once we actually bring them to a forum, we bring the two to the forum, and the power is to say, okay, this is what you have to say. What are the actions? And we, in respect to the media side, how do we create those actions?
I'm sorry, I want to interject there. I'm not sure that it's as haphazard or sort of disorganized as you might. I mean, I'm not talking about sort of Extinction Rebellion. I'm not familiar with them that much, but I've watched the school marches and what they've been doing and how they've been organizing, and I think you'll find that there's a little bit more solidity to the process than just kind of like a bunch of kids going out to the streets when they feel like. Climate. Sorry, go on.
So I understand. What's the action that they're trying to drive? And I can see why they would be out in droves on the street, and so they should be, and how fantastic they're being activists. But what is it they're actually trying to achieve? What's the action?
Well, I think to be fair to them, we should probably invite people who are sort of involved in that organizations and talk with them. But what I've seen from the sideline is that there is a thing called the Australian Youth Climate Coalition that's been involved at the core of organizing a lot of that, and there is a network, a plethora of local organizations and slightly bigger organizations that are talking to other and trying to get into some sort of a coherent discussion about it. I think ultimately they hope to exert political pressure through taking enough kids and their parents into the street, right? And it might not be the best way to go about it, but I don't think they're as kind of like sort of loose as it seems. My older kid has attended a course that was organized by the Climate Coalition last year, which was a kind of a leadership course for children. They had 120 kids from around Australia attending, and there's stuff there. And again, like they're not necessarily the most effective organizations, but then my experience with most not-for-profits is a lot of them are not. And so I think I'm not saying that what we're saying is not valid. I'm just saying we should probably talk to people who actually work in that space to get a little bit more information.
I understand. But Michael, what we want to talk about, what this forum's about, is what media things do we need to actually do? What are the things we can do to get them engaged? If, for example, who's our target market? Are we trying to get to the youngsters from schools? Are we trying to get to the 20 to 35-year-olds? Are we trying to get from the 35 to 60-year-olds? This group that we've got right now is focused on media, and how can we use media specifically? What in my head it was getting maybe a show on Netflix, getting shows on, getting people to interview each other. So like the center of optimism. So we've got this guy, Victor Purton, who's passionate about optimism. And what his goal is to video and get a statement from 1 million people around the world of what optimism is. So maybe one of the things we can do is to say, what do you think of climate and what can we do? And get 1 million people giving their views.